There is nothing wrong with your radio.
Do not attempt to adjust the volume.
We are controlling the broadcast.
For the next hour we will control all that you hear.
You are about to experience the knowledge and insights of the Media Mothership.
All right, welcome to Media Mothership on Edge Radio 99.3. This is Dr. Craig talking to you from Nipaluna, Hobart, Tasmania. And today I'm welcoming special guests, Daniel Brooks and Edward Williams, to discuss their latest indie film, The Bin of Despondency, which you guys co-produced together.
Yes, we did. And it's funny that you say latest, because it's old.
So it is one of those interesting phenomena of a film that has had a long gestation.
Yeah, very long gestation. In fact, you might say that the road for this movie started in as early as 2019.
2019.
Yeah.
So pre-COVID.
Pre-pandemic.
That's sort of a historical date these days. It was a different world.
Yes, a brighter world.
Oh, indeed it was.
So we'll be exploring all these aspects. If you do have anything to ask about the art of filmmaking, feel free to SMS on 0488811707. We're also streaming. Oh, hold on. We will be streaming any second now. There we go. On Twitch and YouTube. So you can potentially send a message out on the chat. It just depends on my ability to keep an eye on it. I'll create a split screen. There we go. So yes, potentially you can post a message on the chat on YouTube or Twitch. Just search for us on Media Mothership, and you could find us. Because I think we are streaming. So anyway, welcome back to Media Mothership. So we're going to again deeply dive out into the world of filmmaking, particularly indie filmmaking, and how this project has come to fruition. With special guests, Edward and Daniel. Those levels were way loud. But, I woken up now.
Oh, yeah. Would have woken everybody up.
So what were your roles, guys, on this film? Daniel, what were your responsibilities?
So I suppose to describe that, I can tell a story. So the inspiration for making the movie mostly came from Edward. And he essentially, without using using official terminology without being so official, he commissioned me to write an outline for it.
It was more of a
here's an idea.
Here's an idea.
Do what you will with it.
Yeah, and
so I sort of came up with a rough outline for it, and then over the next, was it probably 18 months? After that, we sort of co-wrote it. I sort of dictated what needed to happen, but you actually physically wrote it.
Yeah.
And then when it came time to produce it, we had decided to co-direct it, and the sort of split of jobs was that it was technical direction and people direction. People direction being myself, and Edward being the technical director. Over time, that's sort of, those labels have sort of changed to be me being the director and Edward being the co-director.
Yeah.
For reasons that we could probably get into at some point later.
Yeah.
But that's how it is in the credits now.
Right. Yes. Well, and the credits is where
you'll find all this information if you come to the screening at the Taruna Community Hall at 7 p.m. on the 7th and the 8th of October.
So the film is going to have its premiere just around the corner in October, which people can find out by heading Facebook and searching for The Bin of Despondency.
Yes, if you look for The Bin of Despondency on Facebook, you will most likely see my not my face, my entire body is standing next to a statue of an eagle.
Well, okay, so there's... let's start simply. Now you've thrown the eagle into the conversation. The Bin of Despondency. Okay, so it's an interesting title for a film. What does it mean, The Bin of Despondency?
What does it mean? It is describing someone being in a period or a sort of being trapped in a. Excuse me.
That was the sound effect, of course, of being trapped.
Yes, being trapped in this
Help,
horror
I'm
place.
trapped.
But being trapped in a particular mindset.
Right. Like a political mindset?
No, not so much. I think more internal strife. It would be, and sort of that's sort
Bin
of.
of it sounds very negative.
It's sort of
Yes.
and sort of the movie sort of presents that as being as a bin. That often
Right.
the bin doesn't come up very much in the movie, but it is there sometimes, and it kind of
So there's a literal interpretation of that in a scene or two.
yeah.
And there's actually, I think, multiple interpretations of the title. Is it referring to throw bad ideas into the bin of despondency? Are you in the bin of despondency?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is
So kind of psychological.
Yeah.
and I think I think the title is very much a product of 2019 Edward. Because I used to be very adept at coming up with esoteric titles that weren't really, what's the word I'm looking for?
They're
Not very clear on what they're
not
actually.
tentpole titles.
Well, I guess I mean there are films that like the Spotless Mind, that film. I mean, I can barely struggle to get it out. The Eternal Mind of Spotless Mind, and there are films that have this kind of very symbolically heavy.
And despite the esotericism of the title, I actually think it's a pretty catchy title.
Yeah.
Bin of Despondency.
People remember it, which is good.
Oh, yeah.
I was talking to a guy recently who I used to work with several years ago, and he remembered the name of the movie I was working on at the time.
Yeah, why do you think that is?
Because at the time he thought it was so cool that he wanted to make an album with that title.
Yes. What type of music do you think would
He was
fit
a
the Bin of Despondency?
he was a metalhead, and he had a metal band.
It's a good fit.
But yes, no, that was cool. But I think to bring more clarity to the title, and now that we've discussed that angle of it, I think to describe the movie, it's about this amateur filmmaker who has recently experienced a bit of an ego death because his passion project keeps getting rejected from all these festivals he tries to get it into.
Right.
And that sort of opens him up to receiving the ideas of other people in ways that don't suit him. But he's trying to force himself to adapt and complete himself with the ideas of others. And so ultimately the movie is about how different people view and become successful. And it's about how some ideas work for some people and some don't for others.
It's such a interesting topic. There was an article I was looking at this morning. I mean, on that idea of the impact certain events can have on life and the conversations, I guess, that grow up around a text. So, The Bin of Despondency sounds like a really interesting film to discuss ideas of, vulnerable moments in life, pressures placed upon you to achieve, and those kind of negative thoughts. I don't know if you come across. There was an interesting story talking about the Tube Girl in the UK, and basically it's this viral phenomenon where this young girl recorded herself and streamed herself dancing on the subway line.
Yeah, right.
In London. And she was just unabashedly committing 100% to a dance performance in this busy city, tube line. And the conversation there is really interesting because the conversation around it is all about confidence. Isn't it amazing this person's so confident? And isn't this interesting seeing someone perform this way? And so you there have this kind of recorded text where suddenly people are saying, wow, what a great person. What an exciting moment. So they've created this text which is getting people to talk about, oh, she looks really confident. This could be very confident. Your main character, however, seems not to be this kind of aspirational confident figure at the start.
No.
Is there a kind of idea you want people to be left by? I mean, it sounds like a very negative. Is it a positive or negative journey?
It ultimately is a positive journey.
It's I think for
it
the
gets to
majority of the movie, it's quite negative, but
with
then
with a few spices of, well, here's a silly, stupid scene, and here's a scene where a character does this, and
but then it sort of ultimately has a really, in my opinion, cathartic ending that leaves you with a sense of, well, leaves me with a sense of, I guess, relief. Because at the end of the day, a lot of the characters and a lot of the ideas are based off my own personal experiences, sort of extrapolated out into this more conceptual idea rather than direct comparison to my life. Like, none of what happened in the movie happened to me, but a lot of the ideas are ideas that I was struggling with at the time, and so it was a really cathartic movie, and I think that ultimately the messaging is a positive message.
And I suppose to go off the positive messaging thing, it just dawned on me that I didn't even describe the major thing of the movie for me, is that it's about this sort of tussle that you have in your mind between doing what is potentially logical and just doing whatever you want that's a passion fulfilling. So there's a sort of head and heart battle that some of the characters go on.
I'm really excited. This is opening up a number of things, but it also strikes me there's two quick things, I guess. One is full disclosure for me that I'm in this film.
You are
indeed. Am I
indeed.
still in it?
Yes, you are still in it.
Oh, great. I am person in lecture theatre.
Yes.
Student in lecture theatre.
Yes.
Watching. So great role there for me, but full disclosure there that I am in it.
Yes. You were in it for probably 20, 30 seconds.
Oh, wow.
And your acting is brilliant.
Oh, yes,
I
as
love
always.
It really pops. And Edward, you had a redaction to mention, so I do want to get this out of the way.
Yes. Now, last time I was on your show, Dr. Craig, I made the assertion that you can't do low light photography or cinematography with a phone. Turns out you can. I was wrong.
And you found this out through experience.
Yes,
we
I
did,
was doing behind the scenes on a short film called Surprise by Jack Weltman Jansen. I don't think he'd mind me.
Yeah. Who, after all, is the star of The Bin of Despondency.
Right.
Yes, so, you know.
So he was the star, the actor,
Yep.
and now he also has gone on to do a little piece of work.
He's
involved in it.
He's always been a director.
Yeah.
But he has done a lot of acting for me as a favour. And he's a very good actor and a very good director. And he seems to have a very good grasp of how a set should function. And he has a very clear goal and a very clear vision. A very talented filmmaker.
Absolutely.
Anyway, so
What was the name again?
his name, Jack Weltman Jansen.
Jack Welcome Jackson.
Jansen.
Jansen.
So anyway, we filmed that with a phone, and was a very dark set, very creepy sort of horror set. And I was blown away by the technology and the workarounds for filming in low light with phones. So turns out filmmaking is even more accessible than I thought.
So to achieve an effect that you were happy with, because typically, like for this film, Bin of Despondency, what was it that you were using? It was a more kind of standard professional kit.
Professional.
Indie kit.
Professional is not the word I'd use. It was a Panasonic GH4, which is a very good camera for its price range, but it's by no means a professional camera.
But good indie standard student film kind of.
Yeah.
And obviously since then we've upgraded cameras, and so
Right.
we had filmed just humans with a much better camera than that. So
But just because you've got a better camera doesn't mean you can produce a better result. You need to really understand how to use the camera and how to use lighting as well.
Which brings us back to the camera. So what did you add to the mobile phone to be able to achieve something
look,
you were happy with? Did you get to little lenses on top of it or something? Or?
Well, yes, those were used. I wasn't the cinematographer. I was doing behind the scenes. I didn't understand how any of it worked.
Right.
Yeah.
But then you saw the results and you thought, wow.
Oh, they're fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Really? And what type of phone? This would be a phone that's within
iPhone
people's...
13.
I think it was an iPhone 13 or something, yeah.
Wow, so very much standard commercial, highly discussed.
Look,
No, it's very exciting,
Yeah.
I would say.
Yeah.
Right. Are you thinking of doing a film in phone?
No,
No,
that's not my style.
now.
Not my style.
Because you could do. I mean, there are those pieces of work that do found footage, which lean into the poor quality of.
This was not poor quality.
Oh,
this was 4K footage.
Right. So they didn't even need
was-
to.
I
say,
believe it was 4K footage.
I think so.
Yeah.
Pretty sure it was. It was
Right.
unimaginably pretty.
Yeah.
It was pretty good.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Well, we'll have to find out more as that film draws towards some kind of release.
Yeah.
I think it's like a 5-minute short or something.
Yeah.
I think it's like
It's exciting. And as you're saying, one of the real takeaways from that experience you've had, Edward, is the accessibility of creating strong, powerful, professional-looking video image.
Yeah.
exactly.
It blows my mind just how little I know about anything. I mean, I can offer some great insights about filmmaking, but the amount that you can explore with filmmaking is just so unimaginable.
Well, look, and then that's an opinion probably very rarely said. I mean, usually you've got a lot of people who probably fit that category of the Dunning-Kruger effect, where the less you know, the more you claim you have a complete understanding of what's occurring around you, and oh, it looks I could do that. But then the more you know, the more you realize actually, there's a huge learning curve.
Absolutely.
Well, I think what happens is I've noticed a lot of people, they master certain aspects of filmmaking and then ignore others and think that they're a fantastic filmmaker. I don't want to get too into it.
Name names.
No, I don't want to name names or anything like that, but I think that filmmaking really is one of those things that you just have to cover so many bases. You can have the best sound, you can have the best story, you can have the best camera work, the best editing, but if you don't know how to treat your people, if you don't know how to find locations, if you don't know how to organize it, it could all fall apart. Yeah.
Well, I do want to drill down into all of those challenges and how you overcame them in this film, but let's set up the trailer, shall we?
Yes.
So
Yes.
you guys have a trailer that's on Facebook.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's about 50 seconds
50
long.
seconds. What do people need to know as they're... I mean, because I guess we've got to create
A bit of a mental
theatre of the
image.
mind.
Yes, so this is a bit more difficult than the last time we were on here, because this trailer is a bit more esoteric. And so basically what it is you'll hear a bunch of dialogue from the movie that sort of strings together, at least at the beginning, a basic concept of this guy is in a bad place, he buys a book, and everyone around him, or at least some people around him, are telling him that this book is garbage, and then you kind of hear a bunch of other voices, and that's kind of meant to represent how the movie is a bunch of voices.
Right.
So
There's lines of dialogue you're
Yep.
hearing, which are this kind of...
and the actual images associated with them are meaningful if you were watching it, but there's no real point in describing each of the images because there's too many of them. So you can probably see a few, like, it's mostly just shots of characters, pretty powerful shots of some characters, maybe not so powerful shots of others. Some of the good shots from the movie are in there just because they look good, or maybe a few establishing things. But I think the most important thing to take away from it is that the loudness of it and the erratic voices of it are intentional.
Do we hear any of the scoring or...
Yes.
music you've chosen?
One of the pieces of music is in the trailer.
Right.
Yep.
And this piece of music was commissioned or?
Yes, it was. It was indeed.
Great. So does commission mean you own it now or?
Yeah,
Yes.
in this case it
Yeah.
does, yeah.
So in this specific case, we own it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we might be hearing this track on your phone if it rings.
Yes, exactly.
All right. So with no further ado, this is the trailer to Bin of Despondency, which will place us in a kind of very subjective mindset. We'll hear some of the wonderful scoring for this film, as well as some of the key dialogue. All right, here we go.
I just don't think you're what we're looking for. No one really wants to watch that.
Money. Success in you.
It's an interesting title.
$59.95. Go ahead, read the book. I just know I'm not wasting my time with it.
No one likes camping. You just say you do because you're expected to.
By the way, got milk?
Look, you're being a child.
What responsibilities do you actually have?
Yeah, and you are having a go at me.
I'm wrong, you're wrong, a tree is wrong. Come get your bread.
What are our points again exactly?
Right. Come get your bread.
Come
It's
get
a
your
great
bread.
line.
It is a great line. It is the thing that people seem to remember every time they see it.
Totally.
I've had a number of people come up to me and say, "Come get your bread."
Come
and I
get
just
your
go,
bread.
"Yep, I will."
Because that's your voice.
Yes, that's my voice.
Come get your bread. Can we drill down a little bit because it has captured me? Is it a will it spoil the plot?
No,
discussing
it
in
won't
any
spoil
way?
the plot.
What is come get?
There
your
is
bread?
a
What's happening there?
in fact, if anybody has paid attention to the marketing of this film, a lot of it has to do with milk and bread. Because one of the main thematic metaphors and anchors is that the main character is seeking. He has to go and get milk, but he keeps coming back with bread.
Right.
And so
Seems like a bit of a cognitive dissonance there.
So one of the obviously in the film it's a motif that he keeps forgetting to get bread. No, forgetting to get milk. Sorry.
See, he is so obsessed with bread
Yeah.
that
That
he even calls milk bread.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
he doesn't. He doesn't.
Well, I do, but the character
Yes.
doesn't, obviously. But no, But yes,
Right.
There's a great
bread and milk.
In fact, you used to describe before this movie was ever actually filmed. You used to describe it as a story about a guy who goes to get milk but ends up with bread instead.
And look, that is a powerful idea. I mean, it's because how do you handle the return where you've
Yes.
not got the bread, but you've not got the milk, but instead the bread. It does kind of challenge that idea of the hero's journey. Because normally the hero's quest or a kind of 3-act structure for a character is, they'll overcome adversity and they'll learn from it, and then the return, right, bringing the milk back is one where you share that boon of knowledge with people.
Yes,
But
and
here,
I guess he kind of comes back with the milk eventually in a thematic sense, but obviously only to himself. I think it's probably the important thing to realize.
It's a deep concept.
Yes, no, I actually think it is. In fact, the more and more I've thought about it, the more I like it. I think there was a period of time where I wasn't taking it so seriously. Like there was this sort of like, oh, it's pretty funny that he goes out to get milk and then he gets bread instead.
Do people depend on him getting milk? Is
No.
there anger?
There's one character who would really have liked him to get the milk.
Okay.
But that character never then goes out to get milk himself.
No.
Right.
No.
Yeah,
Which
and
is
that's
actually quite
meaningful.
in character when
Yeah.
you think about it.
Yeah.
So it does. Yep. But no, that
And the character that says, "Come get your bread."
he is a shady bread salesman.
Wow.
Who in a scene that was actually a late addition to the film tries to sell the main character loaves of bread out of the back of his car. It is a very, I think, quite funny scene, not just because I'm in it, but I think it's quite fun.
Come get your bread.
Come get your bread.
Yeah, no, I mean, do you? I mean, obviously, when you're creating anything as labor intensive as a film, every decision you're making is deliberate.
Oh no,
no. See, a lot of the movie actually reveals itself to you as you're making it.
Yeah.
So, a lot of that was in the edit. You discover a motif that you didn't realize was there. You subconsciously
you can play on it while you're editing it.
Yeah.
Right.
So a lot of things that are actually some of the best aspects of the movie are things that you pick up like 6 months before you finish it.
Yeah.
So you've filmed a ton of scenes, I imagine.
Yes.
And then you're in the editing, with the idea of what you thought the story was.
Yeah.
And you're kind of piecing all together. And then, what are some moments? I mean, was the bread always?
The bread was always
there?
in the script. There was always he had to go out and get milk, but there wasn't a scene where he was tricked into getting bread. It's just that he went and got bread because he was being absent-minded and despondent.
In the bin of despondency.
He was in the bin of despondency. So, but I guess through filming it, I think it was about halfway through the shoot. I don't remember where the idea came from, but there was an idea to change the scene where he gets bread to fit more with the scenes around it. And there's a kind of rule of 3 thing that happens where there's 3 different scenes of somebody trying to convince him, they're trying to sell him an idea every scene. And the third one is that the guy's trying to sell him bread.
Right.
And he sells him the bread after he's essentially told all of these other people to bugger off. And that someone finally got to him and he bought the bread. And the idea of that became quite funny because then we were like, oh, well, we can like have him cut into the next scene that was already established as him having come back with bread instead, by filming a scene where he gets this bread, but not from the shop, but from a random guy in the street that was selling it to him. And then after that, the bread salesman then managed to make 2 more appearances in the film.
Organically. This started to happen as you were, filming scenes and talking about.
In fact, it more so became because there was supposed to be a character in a scene that was just a no-name person, but then once we had established that, suddenly that character turned into the bread salesman.
Right.
Because that day we didn't have any extras, but we needed an extra to sit on this bench, and it was why don't I just do it and it can be the bread salesman. Because lo and behold, the guy pulls out a sandwich in the middle of the scene and eats it.
Already, so you'd already filmed that.
Yeah.
So
not had already filmed that bit, but the idea to have him pull out a sandwich had already been established.
Right.
But through filming that scene, that character who pulls out the sandwich became the bread salesman
as well.
in retrospect, which is cool.
It must be fun when the work starts having a life of its own. When the characters start talking to you or directing you.
Yeah, and I reckon you just go with it.
Yeah.
You don't... Because if you fight it, you end up making this really jilted,
quite rigid, product. Because if you just go on what's in the script, I think you could probably end up with quite a by the numbers looking movie. But to let it organically evolve as you're filming it, you probably end up with a bit more spice.
Were there any other things you came across in the editing stage which you then started to, kind of reverse engineer a stronger thread? What were some of those?
For example, originally, the first 15, 20 minutes of the movie were quite incomprehensible. Like having been the person to co-write it, I knew what was going on. But a number of people who had read the script kind of went, what's the deal with the first 20 minutes of this?
And I'll tell you what that's a result of.
Yeah.
That was an illogical fear of exposition in the script. And then it's so weird because I think I was the one pushing for lack of exposition.
Yes.
No exposition. And then upon reflection, I thought, one of my favourite movies is Indiana Jones and...
is it Lost Crusade or Temple of Doom?
Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Raiders, the first one, right.
Yeah.
And in that, there's a bunch of exposition. At the very beginning of the movie,
right,
Indiana Jones is explaining to these government people what the Ark is and where it could be and all that sort of stuff.
He brings out the blackboard. I think at one point.
Yeah. And in about 5 minutes, 10 minutes, I don't know how long the scene goes for, the movie is set up so that everyone can understand it.
Yeah.
And it just blows my mind that I've been watching this movie, enjoying this movie, and I never really thought of that. Stargate, always exposition, all the time, and it's great. It's wonderful. I think the thing with me in exposition is that it's when to use it and how to use it that's important.
So I guess the big thing there is that the movie doesn't have any exposition. And so it's sort of, it wants you to get it without telling you what to get. And initially that was quite a massive problem. But then we changed the order of a couple of the scenes while editing it. And for whatever reason, that fixed it in a way that made the actual story easier to grasp. Because it was about, and I had sort of realized this probably, 8 months ago at this stage? Maybe even a year ago.
Probably.
Something like that. But I was thinking about the first couple scenes and how I thought, there's something wrong with them. And then I realized, well, if you move this one here and you put this one forward a bit, you group the ideas better. And it sort of means that people can digest this before moving on to something else and then moving on to another thing. And it fixed a few continuity errors between scenes where, for example, the main character will be carrying his book around with him that he has been reading. And originally, a lot of the early scenes happened one after the other. And so he was going from scene to scene, but only one of those scenes had him carrying the book in it. When we rearranged everything, the scene where he's carrying the book now takes place right after he buys it, not days later.
And again, many people say that the movies are made in the editing, right? That sometimes it's the editing, which is rather unknown to many non-filmmaking types, where a film can be rescued. I mean, there's plenty of YouTubes. There's one about Star Wars was rescued in the edit, which is all about the amazing and kind of unacknowledged work of the I think it was George Lucas's wife.
Yes, his wife.
Who basically the documentary is claiming, and I think convincingly, rescued this film that we consider a classic and a kind of archetypical trope heavy, satisfyingly so 3-act kind of piece of work, and then thinking, wow, really, the editing really did it, rather than all the special effects you hear about, all the kind of George Lucas moments. So similarly, the editing.
Yeah, I think editing is a big.
How long did you invest in that? I mean, in terms of time, the time to edit to the time to. It's been a long.
So
project.
It was filmed between May and July of 2021, and then we edited it. A lot of it initially in September, October, November of that year. And then we kind of hit a wall and then sporadically edited it throughout 2021.
Just lost,
I think, lack of experience.
Yeah.
Right. So I think at that stage we were both very thinking inside the box.
Yeah.
And so we weren't willing to engage with crazy solutions. There's a thing that we've come to say editing movies now, which is call me a madman, and then we proceed to do some crazy wacky thing, and
turns out to be
half the time it fixes it completely.
But you need to give yourself and ask
freedom
for
to
that
do
permission.
that. But being as rigid and as formulaic in our editing as we were for Bin of Despondency, it was kind of hard to give ourselves that leeway, because obviously the editing process took 2 years, whereas the editing process for Just Humans, which came out 2 months ago now, was only 3.5 months.
So that's the other project you guys have been working on with Eiley.
With Eiley, yes.
And
Who is in the bit of Despondency. She is one of the central characters.
Very connected network.
Yes.
So you're listening to Media Mothership here on Edge Radio 99.3 FM. I'm talking with Daniel Brooks and Edward Williams, who have put together, finally, their little indie film project, The Bin of Despondency. Would you refer to it as an indie film?
Yeah.
What makes an indie film? What are the characteristics? What are the criteria in which indie exists?
I think something that has no funding.
Yeah.
So you self-funded, scraped together. Yeah. Okay.
But even then, I mean,
in the grand scheme of things, not really that expensive.
No. But like something that's got, if you get grants for it, I suppose that's also an indie film. I think if you've got like investors and studio backing, that's when it starts to become an independent film or you know, like it sort of, I think a lot of designations with that short film, feature length film, indie film, independent film, I think they're all a bit rubbery and there's no real sort of...
Because we got into that a bit with whether or not we were calling Just Humans a feature, because it's technically 59 minutes long, but 15 minutes of that are extra content.
Yeah.
And to be a feature, there is a kind of minimum...
Some people say it's 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Some people say it's 60 minutes.
Yeah.
And I guess, if you're pitching it to a distributor to pick it up, then...
Now, obviously, the Bin of Despondency is a feature. It's 80 minutes long.
Yeah.
I think it's about 80 minutes long. Yeah.
And this would fall into the category of feature.
Yes, it would, yeah.
I think... you got to think about it in terms of the modern cinema industry is based around getting people in, get their money, and shooing them off after they've seen the movie, and try to keep them engaged outside of the cinema. So they've sort of whoever they are, have decided that an hour and 20 minutes, an hour and a half is the optimal amount of time.
Yeah, and that's kind of been normalized, hasn't it now? It's like, that's what the film is. I assume like you're going to go to the movies, you haven't checked what the length of time is.
I would say it's probably what I would always aim for, because I don't think it's necessary to make a movie that's more than 2 hours long, for me anyway.
Unless it narratively
calls for it. I just don't see myself investing time into making something that long when I could make something that's a bit more compacted, a bit harder hitting. Because I would feel personally, if I wrote something that long, it would be really fluffy and full of stuff that doesn't need to be there.
Yeah.
But if it's really tight, I would prefer to make tight works that
it's so interesting because
hover around the 80 to 100 minute mark.
Yeah, look, and sometimes the theatrical release, which is could be quite short. Then you have the director's cut or the extended director's cut, and sometimes I was reading about the Exorcist film and how the William Friedkin was saying the theatrical cut is perfect.
Yes,
right. It's just 2 hours, just under 2 hours, and it's really tight. But then the author wanting certain scenes included in it, so it bloated out a bit. It's called the director's cut, but it's not what many people consider the best cut. Which is the shorter.
And I think you'll find that's actually a common occurrence. That
and it could be marketing. It could be the studio wanting to make a bit more money. So they, I think Ridley Scott says the same thing about Alien.
Yeah.
Right. That no, the theatrical cut's perfect, but we
here's
wanted
this
to make
other
some money,
one
so we created the.
I think one of the few exceptions. So one of the few exceptions to that in my mind is Lord of the Rings theatrical cut versus director's cut. Now, I'm in the minority, I believe.
No, I think you might be in the majority.
Okay.
What's your point of view?
I think the director's cut is better than the theatrical cut. I think the theatrical cut has better pacing. It's better paced, but it's, for me, just feels a bit shallow.
Yes.
The story feels a bit more shallow.
But I think that actually plays to sort of what I mean is that because it's better paced, because it's tighter, it feels like a more digestible experience that you can put somebody through.
And then...
Whereas you might get a more whole experience out of the extended version.
Yeah.
But it's not... It doesn't feel as good to watch.
Mm.
And I guess,
on a visceral level.
Oh, a very good example of that is Apocalypse Now.
Yes, the Redux.
Redux is... the Redux has a lot more to think about, I think.
Because we've got the French plantation scene.
Yes, that's the one. And it completely bisects the movie, and it's like you're watching two separate movies now. But in it, there's some very interesting ideas put forth. But the theatrical release is much easier to watch.
And I wonder if that's a question of audience, where you do have that kind of encyclopedic fandom that after an initial film they have many questions and they begin to forensically explore, and in that space releasing a very long director's cut or expanded edition will have this audience be very satisfying, and that kind of forensic encyclopedic fandom rushes into it looking for answers, and some of those answers are very unsatisfying. I mean, I always liked the Blade Runner director's cut removing Harrison Ford's narration and leaving open-ended the question of the replicants. So some of them are can kind of fundamentally reshape
what the movie is.
Okay, so bring it back to Despondency though. Are there things that you had to cut which you really kind of were ambivalent about, and
there was
director's cut in the future?
I don't think it'll make it into a director's cut. There was a I don't know if you noticed this, Craig, but there was a lot of montages in Just Humans. There's a fair few montages.
Yes.
Now, there was supposed to be a montage in Bin of Despondency, and I, in particular, am very passionate about making montages.
This will have like a nice scoring behind it, and you'll have these... I remember the scene in Just Humans with the Launceston.
Yes.
Would that be an example of the montage
absolutely.
scene that you're thinking of? Yes.
And I love montages set to music, and
those work well.
It's just, to me, it's a very... I'm a fan of those sorts of things. So I've wanted to always do them. But when we wrote Bin of Despondency, I was like, we'll have a montage here. But I wasn't quite sure how to do it properly. And I did not realize just how many shots I would need to make one.
Minimum 20.
Filmed
minimum
shots
20.
At the time that you thought, okay, this will feed into, in the editing stage, a montage.
Yes.
And then you got to the editing stage, and it's like...
There's just a couple... Neither of us really knew what we wanted out of it. And so we filmed a bunch of stuff that could turn into something, but it was 2 or 3, maybe 5 different shots.
Right.
And it wasn't... And then when we got to editing, it was like, do we do a sort of subversion where it starts off like a montage and then quickly dies?
Yeah, play against...
But that kind of... That didn't work. What ended up working was only using one of those clips and just using it for the same purpose that we would have used a montage.
So there's a score behind it, and...
Well, actually, there's no score at all. No. In fact, we actually used the audio that they recorded. We recorded that day of the characters talking that we weren't originally intending to use. So luckily, they actually spoke. Like the actors actually spoke in that scene, and they were in character enough that we could use it.
Right.
So
it wasn't scripted. It was just...
it wasn't scripted at all, but we managed to create a nice bridging scene that wasn't the montage that originally was planned.
Right.
But it's just one 20-second clip now.
Because normally a montage is in service of some trope, like a training montage.
Yes.
It has to have a narrative purpose. And if you just go in, we're going to film a montage, and you kind of go, well, what narrative function is this montage performing?
a waking up montage, a kind of having lunch montage.
Yeah.
What was the purpose of the montage then?
The purpose of
one scene.
This one montage. It was a montage of these two established characters becoming friends with another one, and
I can see that.
Yeah, and so that kind of works in your head, but it ended up, I think, actually better, like serving a bit better in this movie.
Yeah.
Because it's a bit more low key and it's not as energetic.
And also another thing too is that in the script and in the performance, there was a bonding moment between those two characters in a 5-minute long dialogue scene.
Yeah.
Which, if we'd done the montage and we'd kept the montage in, we would have double up on that narrative function.
So ultimately it turned out for the better, but it was a good learning experience just for me to go, well, how do I make a montage? And then we went on to make 3 of them in Just Humans, which and they were all really good. So,
it is interesting to hear this, because it does seem that normally when you talk about the challenges which can face production of a movie, you know, it seems here that the main challenges were at the editing stage in terms of the time devoted to it, or would you say the challenges were both? I mean, it seems like you learnt a lot from editing that then you brought into
I think,
future productions.
I think it's, in my opinion, interpersonal. And I'm not talking like conflict resolution here. I'm talking about when to get people in, who to get in, because they might be really busy and your project might be very low down on their list of priorities. So it's all about...
So would this be like an actor or a audio guy?
Actor, musician, anyone really, And so the challenge is actually your ability to identify who to contact about what and when, and how to contact
and who
them.
should be doing contacting,
and who should be doing the contacting.
How did you find that mapped out with Bin and Despondency? Did it?
It was we had a very messy time. With that sort of stuff.
Who was
initially.
the most difficult or challenging to?
I don't want to.
Oh, not names, but just like
I don't
like
think there was any like particular person that we had too much like the most issue with. It was just that we sort of week by week were going, all right, we got to all get together and do this, and we didn't. I think we kind of, because we were so heavily involved with both of us doing the same amount of work and all at once. The actual communications was a bit muddled, but now going forward, I'm the only person doing that. So it feels more streamlined. So everybody's coming to the same source for communication.
Because that role is like you've got a director on a film and a cinematographer on a film. Because I know in Just Humans you were...
the production manager. And I was technically the production manager on A Bit of Despondency as well.
And I was technically the co-production manager. And it was a very superfluous role for me. Because... like Daniel said, we were very keen on keeping everything split down the middle. You know, it's half your movie, half my movie, so we have to be 50-50 on every responsibility. And so rather than going, well, my strength is in this area and your strength is in that area, let's specialize into those areas. We're like, oh, well, we don't know if that's 50-50. We don't know if that's a fair workload.
And we played around with it back then because we were going like, oh, well, you're the director of... Well, I'm the director of people and you're the director of technology. And at the time, even some of the people on set were like, oh, but like pointing at me and going, but you're the director. And I'm like, yes, I am.
Yes.
I guess there's a myth though. There's a myth of filmmaking that the director, like you've got these Alfred Hitchcock figures or William Friedkin who are these powerful. But again, that's a bit of a myth, isn't it? That need not be reality.
I think
ultimately we've settled more into suitable roles with that and it's more streamlined. Everyone knows what they're doing and what they should be doing. And as you said on the walk down here, it was we sort of as we've gotten more into doing it that way, we know when to give the other person a job or when to.
Because, you know, I might not be doing anything for a month.
Yeah.
And before I would feel guilty about, oh, Daniel's doing something, he's contributing to the movie, and then I'd be doing work and he'd be doing nothing. And so it's sort of, if you're not so caught up in the minutiae of it all, you just sort of have it, you take it in faith that the other person is contributing, and they are.
Yes, and you avoid entering a bin of despondency.
Yes.
Exactly.
And actually a great example of that has been the last month and a bit, where I did an inordinate amount of prepping work for the screening that's in 2 weeks, like every day for a while there, just getting little things sorted, ordering in things to make DVDs and all that sort of stuff, while you weren't doing that much.
I was on the couch and playing mini golf.
Which is good.
But now I've set everything up so that everybody's now got a task, like, and everybody who's involved in getting it sorted to get screened has a task that they do, and now I've got nothing to do because I've given them all their tasks.
And I think the fact that I had a holiday and I'm still on this holiday means that I am better equipped to tackle the next project and serve the next project better.
Yes.
I think if you go into it with this feeling guilty about not contributing, then you end up hurting the relationship and the projects, because you don't give yourself space and time to actually assess what you need to be doing.
Yeah.
And you just get in the way. You double up on tasks,
And it seems it's worked really well. You guys have worked on a number of projects now together, and this duo is now at this next Apex. So I guess wrapping up. We have the K-pop show coming on. All the K-pop audience.
No one can miss out on that.
Start protesting.
I was listening to some K-pop the other day just to see what it was all about.
I noticed something different about you. Certain K-pop bounce in your step. Do you have any K-pop experiences?
No.
So, but experiences you do have that we've covered, the filmmaking for the Bin of Despondency. So if people do want to find out more, where can they go?
They can go to my Facebook page.
It's a great site.
It's a great place. Maybe Craig can put that up.
Yep, I'll put that in the show notes.
That's
which
a great
you can
idea.
Get to via my Facebook page. So Media Mothership Facebook page, or edgeradio.org.au, or the YouTube or Twitch spots.
But I guess to reiterate, it's screening at the Taruna Community Hall on the 7th and the 8th of October, both at 7 p.m. And you can buy tickets there.
Great.
You can buy them online through said means, but you can buy them there. That's totally fine.
And it's if people want to find the origin source, they can search your name, Daniel Brooks.
Yep.
On Facebook.
Yeah, so Daniel BROOKS.
And I'll put those links up on the show notes for Media Mothership. Any final words, guys? Edward, Daniel?
Oh, well, I hope people come to watch it. It's been 4 years since it was named. And look forward to the future, because we've already got 2 scripts written for the next few years.
Exciting.
So, yes.
So film festivals in the future, maybe?
Yes.
Potentially, yes.
And we've gone in with the strategy now.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
We're months ahead of where we should be.
Yeah.
Well, it would be so good to look back on these interviews I've had you in for. This is the second one. And I'll play certain excerpts of them and say, wow, you said this.
Oh.
Let's now measure up.
I was wrong, Craig. I was wrong.
That's a whole different task.
So do go check it out. That's Bin of Despondency. Screening next week. No, 2 weeks' time.
2 weeks from now, yeah.
In 2 weeks' time. You can find out more via the show notes for today's episode. It's been a great pleasure, Daniel and Edward, to have you on. And all the best with Bin of Despondency. I'm also thinking we should talk about films in the future.
That could be pretty good.
Exciting.
I would like that idea.
Awesome.
Yeah. All right. Well, keep listening now. We've got coming up next. Actually, we've got 2 station IDs. Then Complicated by King Ivy. And then after that is the K-pop show with DJ TJ and DJ CJ.